There she was, my sister Vanessa, standing in a $5,000 custom lace gown, screaming at the top of her lungs, while a golden retriever named Buster happily shook pond water all over her silk train. This was supposed to be the wedding of the century, a $1 million gala at the most exclusive estate in the tri-state area. Instead, Vanessa was standing in the middle of a literal dog park, surrounded by 30 barking rescues, while her high society guests stared in horror at the "Adopt, Don't Shop" banners hanging where her floral arches were supposed to be. I stood there, holding a clipboard and a legal deed, watching the absolute collapse of her carefully curated world. And the best part? I didn't just ruin her wedding. I'd turned her dream into her worst nightmare. And I'd done it with the money she thought she'd stolen from me. To understand how we got to a bridezilla melting down in a pile of kibble, you have to understand my sister. Vanessa was the miracle child. Our parents spent 20 years trying for her, and by the time she arrived, they were so terrified of losing her favor that they never once said the word no. I was 5 years older, the practical child, the one who got good grades and worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. Vanessa, on the other hand, treated life like a buffet where she didn't have to pay the bill. She crashed 3 cars before she was 21, and my parents drained their retirement to buy her a 4th. But the real tension started when I adopted Buster. Buster is a scruffy, one-eared terrier mix I found shivering under a dumpster 3 years ago. He's not a designer dog. He doesn't have a pedigree, but he's my best friend. When I was going through a brutal divorce and lost my house, Buster was the only reason I got out of bed. Vanessa, however, hated him. She called him a flea-ridden rat and constantly complained that his peasant energy ruined the aesthetic of her Instagram posts whenever she visited. Last year, Vanessa got engaged to Bradley, a guy whose only personality trait was having a trust fund and a collection of boat shoes. Vanessa didn't want a wedding. She wanted a coronation. She demanded a 6-figure celebration at the Willow Creek Estate, a venue so exclusive you usually have to wait 3 years for a Saturday slot. My parents were broke from years of funding her lifestyle, so Vanessa turned to me. She told me it was my duty as her older brother to pay for her $30,000 floral budget. I told her to kick rocks. I was finally getting my life back on track, saving every penny from my job as a software architect to buy a modest home with a big yard for Buster. That's when the unthinkable happened. 6 months ago, I had to go to London for a week for a massive product launch. My parents offered to watch Buster. I was hesitant, but they promised he'd be safe. 2 days into my trip, I got a frantic call from my mom. She told me Buster had slipped his collar and run away into the woods. I flew home that night, heart in my throat. I spent 4 days in the rain, posting flyers, calling shelters, and sobbing in my car. On the 5th day, I found a printout in my sister's trash can. It was a bill of sale. Vanessa hadn't lost Buster. She had sold him. She'd found a boutique animal broker who dealt in unique-looking dogs for wealthy families who wanted rescues without the work of actually rescuing them. She sold my best friend for $15,000, the exact amount she needed for the down payment on Willow Creek Estate. When I confronted her, she didn't even blink. She sat there sipping a latte and said, "Honestly, you should thank me. That dog was a burden. Now I have my venue, and you can get a dog that actually matches your furniture. It's a win-win." My parents actually backed her up. They said, "It's just a dog, and your sister only gets one wedding. Don't be selfish." That was the moment something inside me went cold. I didn't scream. I didn't call the police. I knew the broker she used worked in legal gray areas, and Buster would be moved 10 times before a cop even filed a report. No, I needed Buster back, and I needed Vanessa to feel the weight of what she'd done. I spent 48 hours and $10,000 on a private investigator. We tracked Buster to a mansion in Connecticut. I didn't sue them. I walked up to the door, showed the new owners the microchip records and photos of me and Buster, and told them the truth. They were horrified. They were good people who thought they'd legally adopted him. They gave him back immediately. I held that scruffy dog in the driveway and cried for an hour. But I didn't tell my family I found him. To them, Buster was still lost. I moved into a short-term rental, blocked all of them, and started the calculation. I found out through the local business grapevine that Willow Creek Estate was actually in deep financial trouble. The owner was a gambler who had leveraged the property to the hilt, and the bank was quietly looking for a buyer to take over the debt and the deed before it went into foreclosure. Vanessa's down payment was really just a drop in a bucket of red ink. I had been sitting on a significant inheritance from my paternal grandfather that I'd never touched, plus the savings for my house. I formed an LLC called Buster's Justice.
I didn't just want to cancel her wedding. I wanted to own the ground she walked on. I negotiated with the bank and the owner for 3 months. 2 weeks before the wedding, the deed to Willow Creek Estate was officially mine. I kept the staff on the payroll but gave them very specific new instructions. I told them we were rebranding. I spent a fortune on overnight shipping for fencing, kennels, and industrial-grade cleaning supplies. I coordinated with 3 local shelters that were over capacity. I told them I had a new facility ready and I would pay for all the transport. The day of the wedding arrived. Vanessa had spent the last week posting bridezilla countdowns on Facebook, talking about her royal entrance. She had no idea the venue had changed ownership because the former owner was too cowardly to tell her, and I'd made sure the mail was redirected. At 10 a.m., the florists arrived to set up the $20,000 rose wall. My security team, actual licensed guards I'd hired, met them at the gate. Sorry, this is a private animal rescue facility. No flowers allowed. They're a choking hazard for the seniors. At 1 p.m., the catering trucks arrived. I had them redirected to the local homeless shelter with a note saying, "Compliments of Vanessa." Then at 3 p.m., the limousine pulled up. Vanessa stepped out looking like a princess from a movie. She took one look at the giant wooden sign at the entrance, which now read, "The Buster Refuge, for dogs born better than their owners," and her face turned a shade of purple I didn't know was biologically possible. She marched up to the front doors, trailing her bridesmaids, and found me sitting on the front porch in a t-shirt and jeans. I was holding Buster in my lap. He was wearing a little bow tie. "What are you doing here?" she shrieked. "Where is the manager? Why are there cages on the lawn? Why is that disgusting mud here?" "I am the manager, Vanessa," I said, leaning back. "Actually, I'm the owner. Welcome to my new house. Buster loves the lawn, don't you, buddy?" She tried to push past me into the ballroom, but 2 security guards blocked her. "I have a contract," she yelled, waving a crumpled piece of paper. "You had a contract with the previous owner," I said calmly, "and per the change of ownership clause on page 12, the new owner has the right to cancel any event with 48 hours notice if the premises are being repurposed for charitable use. I sent the notice to your email 2 days ago. I'm guessing you were too busy getting your spray tan to check it."